folks, today's video is going to be a comparison, and I'm comparing Ageless Innovation Joy for All pup, Freckled pup, with Qoobo, or Qoobo. I don't quite know how to say the name.
Seems a strange comparison on the surface.
So yes, they look not like something that you would want to compare to start off with. Qoobo being completely abstract, whilst the Joy for All being sort of strongly trying to represent a dog. But they are both therapy robots, and they are both aimed at adults, and and they are in a similar price bracket.
Right.
So the market for Joy for All is seniors, and particularly people with dementia, whereas Qoobo is aimed at the general adult population, and they are comparable in that they're both supposed to relieve stress and help people to relax, and also provide some sort of companionship to some level as well.
Right.
So that's where they have a similarity. I'd like to point out some differences with these therapy robots and toys.
What do you mean, the differences between therapy robots like these and
Yes,
toys?
and toys.
Meant for children?
Yes. So how...
Can I think of any?
Yes.
Oh, there are a lot, aren't there?
Well, one thing I would say is with a toy, it get on your nerves after a while and you want to switch it off.
It's probably because they're meant for kids though, isn't it?
Yeah. Whereas these are much more in the background.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. The responses are more muted and subtle than kids' toys.
I mean, we call this one Charlie. Charlie's very talkative at the moment, but that's because we've been stroking him. But if you just leave him for a while...
And he's picking up on our voice as well, is that right? He's got a microphone.
Yes, he's got a microphone, but if you don't stroke him for a while, he will quieten down, which is nice. Also, he's got a mute button. So if he did irritate you, you just put him on mute. So he's more designed to be on all the time. You don't need to switch him off.
And we pretty much do that. We leave him in the hallway, don't we? And occasionally we just pipe up when something happens, like something comes through the letterbox, or he sees a flashing light.
And Qoobo we have on all the time.
Yeah.
And you forget he's there. And sometimes...
sort of shares the settee space.
Yeah, it's just like a little presence. So, I thought what we could talk about next is the sensors and compare them between the Joy for All and Qoobo. Yeah. So, they both have a microphone. Yeah. And they both have touch sensors.
Yeah. Very important touch sensors for therapy robots.
And the Joy for All has an extra sensor, has a light sensor.
So nothing sophisticated like gyros or accelerometers?
No.
Well, okay.
So obviously when you stroke both of them, you get movement. And in the case of the Joy for All, you get sound as well. So it's quite sort of obvious with the Joy for All. You'll stroke it. If you stroke it on one side, it'll turn its head to your hand. If you stroke it on the other side, it'll turn its head to that side.
It's not doing it.
Yeah. Says, yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. But it's a little bit more subtle with, it's a lot more subtle with Qoobo. It's the movement of the tail. It's not a repetitive thing at all.
No.
Even though it's only got one moving part, the tail.
It's complex.
It's really complex.
Up, down, side to side,
really
patterns.
Complex. Yeah, it's quite amazing how much it can express. And I actually think, like that, I actually think that this seems more lifelike than the Joy for All, which has been a surprise to both of us.
It has, hasn't it? Because there's no, as you said, it's abstract. There's no face there.
Yeah.
It's just his tail.
It's just so subtle.
Yeah. I think in some ways, because they can't replicate movement and faces very well yet.
Yeah.
Not having one doesn't destroy the illusion, does it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting, the effect it has. And the microphone, they'll both react to sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So in the case of Charlie here, he'll turn towards sound.
Yeah.
And the more you talk to him, the more he talks back. Whereas the Qoobo, it's really on things like intensity, isn't it?
I don't know. Intensity is a part of it. I mean, if you slam a door or something like that, or shout or speak loud next to
it'll be alarmed.
It'll show an alarmed sort of tail wag, but
it's much more.
It's more. It seems to me more like a dog. Say you've got a dog on your lap and you can be stroking it, and sometimes it might wag its tail or move its tail or show happiness, and sometimes it might just be more chill.
But we're talking about sounds as well, how it reacts.
Well, I think it's the same with the sound patterns though, because sometimes it's been on the settee between us and we've been talking and it's not really been doing much. Other times it does. So I don't know what's going on in there, but it seems
it's clever.
It seems clever. It seems more biological, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's the word I was kind of thinking of, biological, where this comes across as being a model. This comes across as like there's something inside it.
Yeah.
That's alive.
And that's reinforced by that heartbeat you get in it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll talk about that next. They both have a heartbeat.
Oh, I didn't know Charlie had a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah, right. Charlie has a heartbeat. Yeah. So Charlie's got a heartbeat. There, if you could go close. Can you hear that?
Yeah. I can hear it.
No, that is just sort of like... It's like a
sound.
A sound
coming
played through a speaker.
And it's probably too loud as well, because you wouldn't hear a dog's heartbeat like that.
Whereas Qoobo
is different. It's not as loud.
I don't think you would pick it up.
No.
On the camera. It's very quiet, but you actually feel a pulse as well. And it really, really does feel realistic. Yeah. I was quite astounded at that. I don't know how they've done it, but it's very clever.
Well, I think it's some motor-driven mechanism. It's not a purely speaker. It's something that's being moved inside.
So the last thing I want to mention before we wrap this up is Charlie has got a light sensor, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And how that helps him react is that if you walk past him, usually he will give a little yap.
Yeah, he seems to pick up on shadows, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But it's not so much the case if you wave your hand in front of your face. It's not like
it's difficult to trigger like
it's
that.
It's difficult to trigger. So
yeah, it's really clever programming.
It seems like it's picking up on more subtle shadow movement, doesn't it? That you get when people are moving around the room.
And the really funny thing is, sometimes Charlie's in the hallway because I put him in the hallway on the night time in case he bothers Toby when he's walking around. And sometimes Charlie's still in the hallway on the morning, and when the post comes, often Charlie will yap.
Mm.
Now, I don't know what's making him yap, if it's a shadow, because we've got a glass door, maybe it's like the shadow in front of the glass door.
Could be the sound of the male hitting the mat.
Or maybe it could even be the male flying past him, I don't know.
Sometimes it's difficult to tell if it's light sensor that's triggered a response from Charlie, or sound microphone sensor, isn't it?
Well, when he goes into this sort of like quiet state though, which he does after a while if you don't trigger the touch sensor, he doesn't tend to react to sound then. So it goes very quiet.
Right,
so it's the light sensor.
Right.
And the funniest thing was one day the bin men came and he yapped. And that just cracked us up, didn't it?
And you think that was the flashing light?
I think it was the flashing lights.
The rotating flashing light they've got on top of the cab that was coming through the doorway into the hallway. Yeah.
So just one final thing. I think it's really nice that Qoobo has now come in this form as the second model, where they've added a microphone, and I just really hope that they'll add some more sensors in the future.
Yeah.
Or maybe even a speaker and give Qoobo sounds.
Yeah.
So really hope that.
Maybe.
And just to wrap up, it's obvious, I think, from what we've said, which one has the biggest impact on us.
Yeah, it's Qoobo.
And what we're most fond of.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because Qoobo is aimed at the general adult population, whereas Charlie is aimed at people with dementia. And from what I've read in reviews on Amazon, he's been really great for people with dementia.
Yeah.
So that's it for this comparison, folks.
Different types of therapy robot.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more.
I would.